which we will launch today. And that's one of the two events for which we invited you. The other event is an exhibition which you are invited to see of the renowned photographer Greg Constantine. An exhibition which has been shown in New York, Washington, Madrid, and now in London on stateless persons called Nowhere People. And Nowhere People, I think, is a very good heading for the fate of the nearly 12 million people around this globe who live in a state of having no citizenship of a country, where no state says this is our citizenship. And that's also particularly concerning, considering that many, because having no citizenship, are deprived of, many are deprived of fundamental rights. It's an infringement of serious human rights. You could basically say the many stateless persons in the world have no right to have rights. The philosopher Hannah Arendt called stateless persons in her book about refugees in 1943 the cousins of refugees. Stateless persons and refugees are in very similar situation often. And the reason is that both of them are in a situation of a disconnect of state. That the state actually which is supposed to protect is either not existing, like in the case of statelessness, or in the situation of refugees is too weak, or not in a position or unwilling to protect it, or it's even to persecute it. And if nobody protects a person, there's a danger that people are actually put out of human rights and their human rights. It is a kind of a situation like a punishment happened in medieval times, which was the most severe next to capital punishment, was actually the exclusion of society. It was to declare somebody as an outlaw, or in Roman law, a homo sacer, or there's a German word called Vogelfrei, which means you are free and you are condemned to live like a bird. And it was to me striking that this was not only happening in medieval time, and when I recently read an article on interview in The Guardian, which Mohammed Al-Nezi gave, that he said, my life, it was comparable like a bird. I had no place, actually I could rest, but I could also never stay all the time in life. And we shouldn't live in a world where people are in a situation that they are not linked to everything, to anybody, to no state which is able to protect them. Therefore, in its recognition, the international community has created two conventions to address it. The 1954 Convention on the Status of Stateless Persons and the 1961 Convention on the Protection of Statelessness, for which the UK was both party to. One of the 37 countries were actually only party to this contract, with the purpose to connect people back to the state. As I mentioned, the 61 Convention has its 50th anniversary, and when it comes to the anniversary, we were thinking with ourselves, how can we commemorate and review this? And we said maybe the best thing is to look into to do a thorough study, acknowledging that what we know about statelessness in the UK is rather anecdotal. All kind of information. Even the question how many stateless persons live in this country, we heard statistics between 206 on one side and 20 or 30,000. So there was an extreme uncertainty what we are talking about. I must even say there was some resistance or even a reluctance to engage in this topic thoroughly. And we thought a mapping exercise, we could say an empirical study, would shed light into the theme. And the result of it, we're presenting today. And the result is a very thorough research, 164 pages long, which is out there, and we're very, very pleased, Sam and Eunice are very pleased to share with you today. I want to thank persons who were involved in this process, and there were many individuals, and the list would be probably too long for today to list all of them, but I have to name a few who were directly involved in writing and researching of the project, namely Lucy Gregg and Chris Nash, Nick Olshaw, all three were directly involved in researching the project, but also Russell Hargrave and Veronique the writer for UNHCR, who were giving additional input into the process and wrote. Those who supervised the project, Nick and Alexandra McDowell from UNHCR, did a wonderful job in steering to get in supervising the project. Laura Paduan, who was instrumental that the project we have is here on time and organized the event tonight. We had an expo, a panel of consultative experts who gave support and a lot of creative input in the process. The UK Border Agency, the Home Office, was very helpful, opening the doors, open with statistics, frank about processes, but also the issues which needs to be addressed. A lot of people were collectively active in making this study a very thorough product, which I think will influence future process on how to address statelessness. Most importantly, were the accounts given by stateless persons like Mohammed, who could give authentic report on their life, on the challenges they're encountering, and it's really worthwhile and important to read and listen to them carefully. I also like to thank the Royal Albert Hall for hosting this beautiful surrounding event, and it's a very historical place. And you know, Google is such a fantastic thing. You can look into the history of the place. And what I was just not aware until recently, actually, that on the 3rd October 1933, there was an interesting event happening in this hall by the Refugee Assistance Fund, which hosted an event on refugee, on the protection of refugees, and the speaker was Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein didn't talk about the light and the constant of the universe, but I think on another constant value of the importance of how to protect refugees. And I think in this spirit of the Royal Albert Hall and Albert Einstein, I wish that this inspires also the stateless to support. Thank you to all of you. Slideshow, if you want to attend, also on stateless children. You might pay attention to it, but now I'd like to invite Mohammed to say a few words.
Thank you very much for all of you, really. You make it difficult for me to speak after you, after this speech. I prepared words to say it by paper, but really, I'm afraid I need to speak a little bit before the word which I prepared. I want to thank you, all of you, one by one, for this occasion. And really, I feel now the feeling of the stateless people around the world, generally, and especially in Kuwait. They are looking for this meeting, and their hopes that this meeting in the future will give results for them to stop their suffering. I know how did they feel now. They will be very happy that there are people really working day and night, while they are not stateless, but just to draw the smile on their faces. So thank you very much for all of you in the beginning, and I will do my best to say my words in the time, because always my problem with the time. I am one of approximately 300,000 stateless in Kuwait. Some of them worse than me, and some of them are suffering less. But we are all partner in the tragedy. Born to find yourself without a nationality, it is very painful. You are committed or accounted for the fault which was not committed by you. Held accountable for a crime you have not committed. You find yourself facing discrimination for no reason, being denied rights enjoyed even by animals, being a human being with dignity. I opened my eyes to see Kuwait as a home, which I love. I live in it, and I saw myself a citizen of Kuwait. I was shocked when I was a teenager, because of the discrimination and exclusion. I was surprised one morning in high school when I found out the students' names in the registers of absence, the nationality for each one. And they record in front of my name the label non-Kuwaiti. The government passed a resolution in 1986 to withdraw all human rights from the stateless people. No education, no medical treatment or health service, no employment, no housing, no identities, no birth or death certificates, no marriage contracts, no passports. You are not allowed for anything. All these decisions happened during my graduation for high school as I turned towards university. I had dreams and ambitions which all shattered by being labeled as a person without any identity, without presence in this world. I graduated from high school and my student identity expired. Every time I approach a checkpoint, I run away, as if I had committed a crime just because I had no valid identity. I looked for work everywhere, and I was always rejected because I was stateless. I went everywhere to complete my university education, and the reply was always, sorry, you are stateless. I felt anguish as I stood before the head of the university in Kuwait to decide my acceptance in the university, and placed in front of him my secondary school certificate. My father worked for 30 years in ministries of oil, education, electricity, and as a policeman, but he refused to accept me in the university and kicked me out of his office because I was stateless and because he had press conference to attend. I wished if I could inform the press of the problems faced by the stateless people, but the government prevented newspapers and media from publishing a complaint about and from the stateless people. I sat once outside a government department after they rejected me, looking through my secondary school certificate with sadness. I submitted to the media ministry to work as a presenter on the television. They did not just reject me, but sat in behind their desks as they mocked me. So I went outside with a sour taste in my mouth. I got the approval of 2 universities in United Arab Emirates and in Jordan. However, the government did not give me the passport to travel. I lived through difficult years. I was always a subject for a mockery because I was stateless. And as if I was outside the street at the time which the children were in schools, she used to peek through the door to see the neighbor's daughter coming back from the school, and she felt envious and she burning from inside because she was not given the same right. It was painful to be prevented from something for no reason, and it was up to her as Burn to explain why she is stateless, as if there was a reason she had brought this upon herself. The government deprived stateless people of life by a plan that was prepared until great. Children died because they were not allowed for treatment. Generations are now illiterate. They don't know how to read and write in this age. Women have reached to the age of 45 years and cannot marry. Families are scattered around the world as refugees because they wanted to escape the suffering and exclusion that is forced on them. They made us live lives of suffering. When will they give us back our rights? To feel that I was human, that I had dignity, and a bid to save my children from suffering that I suffered, I decided to seek asylum abroad. In this bid, I reached Britain, and it provided asylum, and remained there waiting for them to decide my future. The wait was something painful. It is a disease, because in that time a decision for residency took years, unlike today. I watched the mail, waiting for the postman to deliver the message to end my suffering, in order to live like other human beings. I waited 4 years in doubt, in which I dreamed of passport, into which my photo sets my identity to be recognized as a human being, so I can go wherever I want. And 4 years after the decision was made, that the families living in Britain for 3 years or more get to stay and have indefinite leave to remain. I received the agreement for indefinite leave to remain. It was positive, till I stood on the 27th of May, the year 2005, in front of the governor of Barnet. He was reciting, and while he was talking, I was hearing his words and thinking, in Kuwait, he was saying, on behalf of the British Queen and a representative of the Minister of the Interior, welcome you, citizen. You have your full rights as any British. Words which may have been recited over many thousands of people, but their impact was different to me. Their meaning certainly is different from the other who changed their nationality to British, not like me, to be a citizen of a country. I was lucky because of the provision of residency for families, and I am lucky to come to the UK. But what of the millions of stateless who have not had this chance and opportunity like me? The stateless in Kuwait especially, and those around the world in general, are waiting for you to participate in this conference, to each to them and bring a solution to their problems. They unfortunately do not have access to you. Why do they not have access? For one reason, and that is they are outside the world. Yes, they are outside the world in this sense that they don't have a nation represent them. The United Nations is composed of states which represent their citizens. However, the stateless do not have any state to represent them. Hence, they are outside the world. Will you reach to them?